Hi, my name is Byron Eccles. I'm here to address the state-sponsored bullying Alabama has imposed on its residents for a long, long time. My living room window is 18 feet from car exhaust, and I consider myself lucky because there are people here whose windows to their bedroom is less than 10 feet. 2,600 vehicles passed my house in an 8-hour period on February the 6th of 2023, and let me show you how the residents across town get treated.
We got a loud muffler ahead of us. Looks like a Nissan Titan. Two decals on the back window. The middle one looks like a snake, like a coiled snake, maybe a rattlesnake.
Now pause it right here so you can see the amount of residents right by the vehicle, and I'll move on with it so you can hear what he does right beside their houses.
Hopefully you heard that. Tag is 52AH3AX. That is a snake, and it's a dog on the left. That's an all-black tinted window. It's going to be tough to know who it is. 52AH3AX.
One of the issues is I've never been bullied in my life. I had to attend counseling just to try to allow these guys the opportunity to continue on and give the police the opportunity to see what they could do. I notified a contact within the Decatur Police Department in February of 2022 stating that I need some help, man. They're killing me down here. He stated for various reasons. Anyway, I began to collaborate with him, identifying vehicles. He was knocking down vehicles relatively quickly. But what I found out was the state of Alabama was producing problem vehicles faster than the police could take them down. And that is no lie. I attempted discussion with the state law enforcement agency in the mid-2022. I attempted discussion with my city councilman in 2022, and it just seemed like we were going to be so far off in the message he sent me back that I might not make too much progress. I also discussed the issue with 3 magistrates stating, what can we do? And then this happened. Now, I don't know if you legislators have ever put any thought into what you would feel like if your lack of action or wrong action killed a police officer or wounded a police officer. But I can tell you this, I'm a veteran. I've been in 2 wars for this country. But I went for 25 years wondering, what could I have done to keep that sergeant from getting shot 5 times? I finally realized I had done all that I could have done. But Burkhart got shot in the head. Sergeant Ramos got knocked off the wall with AK-47 rounds. And then this guy who had asked me to help him prepare for Ranger School, he thought that much of me, got shot 5 times. Last time I saw him, I was getting him on a helicopter to medevac him out. It took 3 men to plug the holes in him while I was calling in the helicopter. Now I want you to think about what you as a senator or you as a representative in the state of Alabama could do about these vehicles to prevent these police officers from having to respond like they're having to respond. I saw where Senator Arthur Orr asked for prayer for this legislative session. I see Mayor Bowling speaking about going to church and requesting people show up for National Day of Prayer. I see where my city councilman, Kyle Pike, made a reference to Jesus Christ in one of his posts. And I want you to know that you have 5,074,296 assets in the state of Alabama, and that is human assets. Of those, I'm aware of one who was appointed by God to be a spokesperson, a representative of the people who are afraid to stand up and say something, afraid of retribution from these guys out here. And I'm that one. The Lord notified me a couple of weeks ago I was the one. He did so in two different ways. One way he showed me I have to make sure that my grandniece is able to have a future. And then another way he just showed me, Byron, people are scared to stand up for themselves because they're afraid of the retribution of the bullies of Alabama. When I was a young kid, I saw a whole community shut down by drag racers. None of the adults would say a word. When I asked as a young kid, why don't somebody say something? The answer that I got was, they'll burn our places down. I know of one man right now in Decatur, Alabama, who's looking for a means to purchase a gun in order to stop what's going on. Another man told me if he could get his hands on a bazooka, he would. Make no mistake about it, Alabamians are being hit by drive-by shootings from these exhausts every hour of every day. And it's only so long that good men can be patient and wait on a government that should be dealing with this situation. I implore you as legislators of Alabama to find a way to stop the loud vehicles in Alabama. I'm not just talking about the extremely loud vehicles. I'm talking about the loud vehicles, those that are excessive, beyond the norm, beyond the reason, beyond what we need to have to deal with. And I also am calling for you to give the common man a way to defend himself without resorting to violence, such as accept a video that I've done, and as a minimum, have the person with the vehicle come to a safe zone for the police in order that the police can conduct a check of the vehicle, instead of sending these people or these officers out and hoping, well, maybe the person will make a mistake and make a loud noise while the officer is watching. And I ask my fellow Alabamians to do what you can do to get your senator or your representative to do something to help you, to do something that would be for the good of good people, instead of allowing bad people with bad exhaust to rule Alabama. This legislation that just passed the Senate about drivers that do donuts and drivers that are showing out and things like that, that's going to help in certain areas, because it sounds to me like they're going to try to control it with cameras at intersections or wherever those cameras may be. I don't live near a camera, but I live 110 steps, and I walked it just a few days ago from where a lady was ran over by a vehicle as she tried to walk down the street. Here is two videos of two people making an illegal pass right out beside my house. And here's one I'll narrate for you. You got the white truck coming on. See the yellow Camaro right there? I pause it just so you can see. You got 9th Avenue Southeast and 8th Street Southeast. This Camaro is eastbound. Right here where the arrow pops up, it's going to be where he begins his move. That's my camera facing the west that he's there at. Continue on down. You see the camera that's facing east now. You'll see the yellow Camaro. He just passed over the kill zone. I'm going to show you the picture of that in just a second. Got a tag number there for you. An illegal pass in the middle lane that should be used as a turn lane only. And there comes the white truck. Some of these guys reach excess of 60 miles per hour. Here's a look at that same intersection. The yellow Camaro just went over from a different angle. We're looking north. There's your skid marks of the enemy activity on the street that the bill takes care of. There's an article of where they picked the lady up off the street in 2017. I watched them pick her up off the street after they killed her. Here's one that was ripped in half at the Walmart that is 1,400 feet from our house. And I'm going to show you some pictures of the Walmart to show you there's another accident coming. It's going to happen very soon. I guarantee it. Here is one of our councilman's house where a car ran through the side or into the side of it. And here is my daughter's house. This is Hartsville, Alabama. Car right up inside her kitchen and almost into her living room. So anybody that wants to call me crazy for wanting to put a stop to the insanity of drivers in Alabama, you're the ones crazy. There's your pictures to prove it. Mayor, that moment was brought to you by what I call one of Decatur's nightmares, and it's TVGNZ is the Alabama tag number. I put an OG here. He's a original gangster. I've been wondering who the heck is this driving all over the southeast side of Decatur, making a fool out of Decatur. Anyway, I found him. Got him right here on film. You got a face. You got a car. Here he is in action.
Crossing 6th Avenue, 31.
Pause at this picture right here. I just wanted to see a Decatur, Alabama home with the windows boarded shut and trees planted in the yard to try to somehow stop the noise. This person is directly across the street from me. Alabama Legislature, this is one asset of 5,074,293 assets. I got a black 1996 Chevrolet pickup. He did a full body length pass in 5 frames. I'm shooting 30 frames per second. That comes out to 88 feet per second travel or 60 miles per hour in a 30. Tag number 52 Alpha Echo Yankee Papa Whiskey. Also, there's no evidence of an exhaust system or exhaust pipes in the rear of the vehicle. This is that second boiling point that I was talking about. This is where somebody else is going to get hurt. You got people parking in the fire lane, people parking on the sidewalk. People literally will drive right up to you, make you as a pedestrian move away from them on the sidewalk. They'll come up behind you and shine their lights on you at night. Drive right behind you. You move out of the way. They'll go around and get in front of you and park and block you from the door. There's people that will actually park in the white lines up there in the pedestrian crosswalk. They will sit there until somebody finishes their shopping. It can go on for minutes and hours. You know, I can understand a pickup point, but I can't understand how a society gets to the point where there is such a blatant disregard for law and order and consideration for other fellow men. The Lord has already shown me Decatur is going to erupt in gunfire. It's a matter of time. Mayor, I know you're trying to grow a city, but you better take care of a city too. Someone would ask a question, well, whose responsibility is this mess? And I can tell you it's probably a joint responsibility. The fire department isn't making sure that Walmart is marking their signs, or according to the fire department, I've already talked to them, they have designated this as a fire lane. That red line right there, it is a fire lane. There should be markings. I'll show you the pictures of the one in Madison. Madison is in accordance with Alabama state law. You see red paint on the curbs. You see no parking written on the red paint. You see no parking signs there also, although this doesn't apply to the neighborhood mart in Decatur. You see no do not block doors over in the Madison time. Come to Decatur, it's like hillbilly city, man. We just got to hope Jethro put brakes on the truck. And for our lawmakers and perhaps our law enforcers as well, how do you assist Walmart, or how do you assist the citizens of Decatur, Alabama, in rectifying the issues here? I know I ran a store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I borrowed people that didn't cooperate from the store. I had them looking, they would be outside the window, looking in the window like little puppies. Like, can I not come in your store anymore? I'm telling you, I got rid of the riffraff and business picked up. People became nicer. I had some music going in there. People were dancing in the aisles. You let the riffraff in, man, it's all just jacked up. It just, we got too much riffraff over here. We need to make some elimination of the attitudes that are going on around here. And people can voluntarily do that, or they can be escorted out of stores, escorted off property, done something to move them on. One other perhaps oversight is I picked up a copy of the Alabama driver's manual. There's no mention of a fire lane in the Alabama driver's manual. So you could be a driver in Alabama, completely ace your test, be top of the class, and not even have a clue what a fire lane is. But now, turning our attention back to vehicles, and I understand you guys your time is precious. I'm not going to try to take up a whole heck of a lot of time. I do want to cover some things, but I always make reference to things in the Bible. That's just how I think. I read it a lot. And there's a thing in the Bible called the mystery of iniquity. And I've studied it for many years, trying to figure out now what was meant by the mystery of iniquity, and looked at scripture there, looked at scripture all through the Bible. I've come to the belief that the mystery of iniquity is there's two sides to it. One is monkey see, monkey do. If you allow people to see a lot of iniquity, there is more of a chance that they're going to do iniquity themselves. So if one person parks on the sidewalk at Walmart, the likelihood of someone else parking there increases because they saw somebody else do it. The second part of that is if you stop people, or if people are afraid to make corrections, like walk up to them and say, hey man, you don't need to be parking on the sidewalk, it also has a snowball effect. There's a verse in the King James that reads, and he who now lets will let until he be taken out of the way. And it just means he who is withholding iniquity will continue to withhold it until he, whoever that is that's withholding it, is taken out of the way. I personally believe that the law enforcement ways of Alabama has taken people out of the loop. Like, if you see somebody with an allowed vehicle, well, instead of the police officers being able to say, well, let me just bring that vehicle in and give it a thorough check, see if it's even capable of making a loud noise like that, you send a police officer out in a vehicle, which you put them out there in black and white, everybody's going to be perfect little angels, or most everybody. It's the likelihood of that person, making that vehicle be loud, showing the potential of that vehicle is very small. So the person who complains to the police about a loud vehicle, the police can't, it's like, so you take the he or whoever's withholding iniquity out of the picture. And I'm trying to find a way that you can bring that person in, such as private citizens having a more impact on things. I'm not trying to say make private citizens police officers. I'm trying to say take the validity of a private citizen's video, and as a minimum, look at the video. You can send it off to the FBI lab, see if it's been tampered with, but look at the vehicle and decide, is this video valid enough for me to at least bring a vehicle in and have the vehicle tested or checked to see, can it be excessively loud? And it should be as simple as this. It doesn't even have to be a police officer, somebody, a mechanic or whatever. Step on the gas in a certain way. Vroom, vroom. Oh yeah, that's one of them. Or step on the gas. Oh, that's not one of them. It's a very simple test. I'm going to use this 2004 Nissan 350Z, Alabama tag ZEEE8. ZYA or Zia. I'm going to use them as an example because what happens is these vehicles can be the sweetest little angels in one moment, and then they can be a holy terror the next moment. You're going to see a video here, the approach and the pass of this 350Z, perfect little angel. But watch what happens when he thinks he's going to be able to get away with something behind your back. Watch this.
It does get a little choppy, and there's people on the deck and sitting.
This clip right here will just show you the variance between good mufflers and not good mufflers. And it shows you the difference between the irritants among our society and the non-irritants.
So this is actually pretty close to how it would have been.
Thus far in this video, I've shown vehicles that are normal sounding. I've shown vehicles that sound excessive and also unusual. And then I've shown vehicles that sound extremely excessive and extremely unusual. Right now, I want to just look at the Alabama laws and see how the Alabama laws have progressed over the years, and also show you how mufflers have progressed over the years. The earliest law that I could find was in 1940. I don't know if we call it Alabama Code. I don't know what you call this, but I got this from the law library. In 1955, the law read, "Every motor vehicle shall at all times be equipped with a muffler in good working order and in constant operation to prevent excessive or unusual noise and annoying smoke. And no person shall use a muffler cutout, a bypass, a muffler without baffles, or similar device upon a motor vehicle on the highway." In 1968, there was something created called Cherry Bomb, and they had what is called a straight through flow glass pack muffler. It was used in the hot rod market. Let me show you a picture of what it looks like. If you look at this, you can just see straight through it. There are no baffles, and I'm going to show you what baffles are before it's over with and how they affect the muffler. It's red, almost like the forbidden fruit that would be taken from a tree. And unfortunately, with a law that was created in 1955 to say we're not supposed to have straight through pipes or stuff like that, we have this for sale at AutoZone today. So with a law on the books that states no person shall use a muffler cutout, a bypass, or a muffler without baffles, that's in 1955. In 1968, Cherry Bomb came out with their straight through pipes. And those things are still available today. Can you see the contradiction? Can you see how Sergeant on the police force has to go out and stop somebody from having a Cherry Bomb because every store in the city that sells automotive parts probably has one for sale? So you have a law that's poorly defined. If you had a law that stated, or at least a reference from the Alabama law enforcement agency that stated cherry bombs are illegal in Alabama because they do not have baffles, then at least people would be able to go to there and reference, okay, I shouldn't buy a cherry bomb. But what's happening is Byron calls the police. Police goes out, stops the cherry bomb from making noise, and then tomorrow 3 more people have them. That's what's happening in the state of Alabama. Okay, I've mentioned to you that the Alabama muffler law says you got to have baffles. One of the best illustrations of a baffle is with a liquid tanker. If you'll watch here, the liquid tanker is going to have baffles come down into it, and it'll show you how it controls the flow of water in the tanker as the tanker stops. Baffles are in. Here comes the liquid. Liquid is level throughout the track, but he starts putting on his brakes, and you see how there's multiple areas within the tank that contain the water, and the water sloshes back and forth, but it's restricted in some manner. The same thing should happen within a muffler. There should be a restriction, and this gentleman here is going to show you the baffles inside a muffler, and then I believe I got one more behind him.
Gas flows in along this pipe here, and it flows into a chamber here, and as the sound waves come out through here, they bounce around from side to side off all these baffles that are inside.
All right, so you can kind of see the inside of the muffler here. There's these 2 baffles here that are welded to the outside sheets.
So just another quick look at the cherry bomb flow-through muffler. You can see there's no baffles there. And what's so contradictory or so hypocritical is that you have police officers you're expecting to enforce the Alabama law, but you have a legislature not shutting off the supply line of illegal mufflers. So it reminds me of a scene from a movie about Stalingrad in World War II, where the Russians kept flinging bodies at the Germans. And when the Russians would start to retreat after getting hit hard by the Germans, the Russian officers would shoot at the Russians. And it makes me feel similarly that you keep on running police officers out here to control mufflers, and they're like, dude, why don't you stop people from bringing them out here? Same thing is true with drug paraphernalia. You're allowing the sale of drug paraphernalia over the counter, and they're arresting people for drug paraphernalia. It's hypocritical. It doesn't make sense. So continuing to look at Alabama law, the Code of Alabama in 1975 stated this. It said, every motor vehicle shall at all times be equipped with a muffler in good working order and in constant operation to prevent excessive or unusual noise and annoying smoke. And no person shall use a muffler cutout, bypass, a muffler without baffles, or similar device upon a motor vehicle on a highway. And the crazy thing is that after this law was enacted in 1975, the muffler suppliers kept being crafty. They began to create mufflers that had, I would call, almost false baffles in them. And then by having those in there, you think they got a good muffler. But in reality, what people are doing, they're taking good mufflers off their vehicles, and they're installing mufflers that sound like bad mufflers and putting them on their vehicles, so that the police officer looks, he sees a muffler, it looks like in good working order, but the sound is horrible and bad for Alabamians. In 1979, a company called Borla came out, and here's how that sounds.
But it's very challenging and very difficult to be loud and good.
In 1981, a company called Magnaflow was founded, and here's how they sound. In 1983, a hush power was created. In 1987, Walker created something called a Dynamax. In 1990, Gibson came out with a muffler. It looks pretty much like a cherry bomb with a muffler case built around it. So all this stuff is in there to trick people into installing mufflers that sound like mufflers in bad working order. But you have the police officer look at it, I'm like, well, I guess he's got a muffler. Again, in 1998, same thing. Corsa came out with a Corvette muffler, and here's how it sounds. The end result is that the normal, what we consider as normal as far as how a car should sound, has changed over time. And we need to, and I recommend, we should stick with how the federal government tells us to build vehicles. It's very hypocritical to have automobile manufacturing plants, to name a few. You got Toyota, Mazda in Huntsville area. You got Mercedes-Benz down in Tuscaloosa. It's very hypocritical to install factory originally equipment mufflers on those vehicles so that when they come out, they sound like the government intends for them to sound. Drive them out of the parking lot, rip off the good mufflers, install another muffler and call that good. Install another muffler that's going to agitate people and call that good. That's hypocritical, Alabama. And you're not alone. Look at this map. All those states in yellow have the same law. And I believe that if you were to force my hand, I could prove in court that, Judge, here's what happened. What we used to think a muffler is supposed to sound like, or what it's supposed to really sound like, is no longer what we apply out on the streets. This right here gives you a visual representation of what I'm speaking of. The GMC Yukon on the left, the GMC Yukon stock muffler. See how that looks? I'm going to have a guy, he's going to explain the workings of that muffler here in just a second. But if you compare that with the Gibson beside it, the Gibson has no baffles. It just has the hard outer case, and there's a cutout there so you can see that yellow. But inside there, there's no baffles inside that. And if you look at the Flowmaster, which is a very popular one, the baffles within the Flowmaster, there's none of those tubes with the holes in them. So the sound is not taken care of like it is with the stock muffler. This is true with all vehicles.
The dual pipes are the inlet to the muffler. There's no Y pipe on the 99 GMC Yukon. Exhaust fumes, exhaust noise goes into this little chamber here. This narrow chamber, I believe that's what takes care of the low end noise, like the low rumble at idle. You step on the gas, that fills that up, and it goes into this bigger chamber. You got some destructive interference with the sound waves here. Let's see. Where's it go from there? Okay, so this tube here below, once this cavity fills and goes into here and this fills up, there's no exit on this cavity right here other than these two pipes. So once all that chamber fills up, then it goes into this lower tube right here into this very small cavity, and once it gets in that little cavity, the exhaust comes down and then that goes to the tailpipe. So pretty interesting.
I just want to go back to this illustration of the tanker one more time and show you the baffles in there. With a muffler, if you just imagine while we're watching this tanker illustration, if you just imagine with a muffler, you have exhaust gases going out. They don't have a sound to them, but then you have noise, and the noise bangs around inside there off these baffles through the tubes with perforation. You know, it bangs around in there, canceling itself out, and you get the production, or the product is a quieter, more population-friendly muffler. Now we just turn to the blatant I'm taking my muffler off and going to throw it in the trash. And that's what's happened with a lot of vehicles that are on the road today. Let me play this for you right here. This is just some vehicles that came by the house. I'm filming, I'm listening. I've got what they would say in the military, I've got an observation post, a listening post, and then what triggers it is sound. So I tune in on sound. You guys, the government, you guys could access cameras that can do that too. I do a little more manual, but I don't put anything in a video like this unless it was one of the top loudest vehicles for a day. But let me play this right here for you. It's a song. I'm going to play the song by Jim Croce, talking about Alabama running moonshine and basically being rebels. And it's going to show you vehicles that's passed by my house recently, I suspect have no muffler whatsoever. And believe it or not, some of those vehicles are quieter to my ear than vehicles with mufflers. Some of these other performance type mufflers. However, when you look at the sound signature that comes out on the little sound printout, and I'll show you one here in a second or so, the vehicles without mufflers and still have catalytic converters seem to provide more pressure. Because I went to get my ears checked 1 year apart during this whole process. Both times I was checked as normal, and I can provide paperwork for that. But I kept telling the audiologist, I said, I'm feeling pressure. And finally I figured it out. The pressure that I'm feeling is coming from vehicles that have just taken their mufflers off. They do something to, you can feel them. They shake the house, they rock the house. And here's just some that I can't see any evidence of an exhaust system from my angle.
Oh, rapid roar, that stock car boy, he ain't too much to believe. You know he always got an extra pack of cigarettes rolled up in his t-shirt sleeve. He got a tattoo on his arm that say, baby. He got another one that just say, hey. Whatever Sunday afternoon, he is a dirt track demon in a 57 Chevrolet. Oh, rapid roar, that stock car boy, he the best driver in the land. He said that he learned to race the stock car by running shine out of Alabama. Oh, the demolition derby and the figure eight, it's easy money in the bank. Compared to running from the man in Oklahoma City with a 500-gallon tank. Oh, rapid roar, that stock car boy, he ain't too much to believe.
That was kind of an abrupt end to a song, and I'm going to bring this to a close. You guys, I know your schedules are so busy, and I don't even know that any of you hung with me this long. But my personal belief is that the areas, the neighborhoods, the places where people are located close to roads, such as in a city environment, such as you've stated in your bill that you've just recently passed, where you've got pedestrians close by, etc. I definitely believe at least they need to be treated differently than the more out suburban type areas of the state. If not, just tell the whole state, hey, quit screwing with people. And Florida has done that. So if you were to say, do not exceed your OEM decibel level by 5-10%, I believe you'd be fine. But if you start giving people an inch, they're going to take a mile, and they're going to be ruining people's day continuously until Alabama's done with. So my personal belief is that people ought to be able to feel good enough about themselves that they don't need an exhaust system to help them. And if we're going to allow people to just overrun, if we're going to allow people to dictate to Walmart where they're going to park, we have lost as a society. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why a man wants to argue with me because he almost just ran me over on a sidewalk. That doesn't make sense. And there's a time limit, and I'm telling you this very calmly. I'm telling you, there is a time limit on how long good people can take poor leadership. There's a time limit on how long good people can tolerate people that are not good people. And I know I talk to people at the gas pumps, man. I talk to people in the stores. I hear from people. I know what's happening out here, and I know that there's people that are disgruntled that you'll never hear from, for they're afraid that maybe there'll be some type of retribution toward them, not necessarily from the leadership of the state, but from some of these guys out here that I just gave you tag numbers on. I'm not afraid of them. I'm fixing to begin the liberation of my neighborhood, because there's people in my neighborhood that are not in accordance with the state laws. And me and the city of Decatur will start bringing them into. I'm liberating a neighborhood. I'm going to liberate everybody that passes by my street out here. I live in it's almost like I live in the tube of a funnel. You know, I live in a place where people love the street that I'm on. It's paved well because there's an ambulance traffic that goes between there. Heck, I caught the ambulance guy hot dogging the other day, man. Not with the siren on, just hot dogging it, leaving trails of smoke. I got him on film. But it's not the time in the nation history for people to be bullying other people. You see the news. You know what's happening on the news. You know that bullying can lead to a mass shooting. You know that. State governor, you know that. State legislatures, you know that. House of mayors, you know that. Chiefs of police, you know that. I showed you a picture of my daughter's house that had been run into. There was a near miss also over there at her house. And the email that was sent to Decatur High School about some kind of gun type thing. My daughter works at the middle school. So, how long can you expect a man, a real man, how long can you expect him to wait on you to do your job? Now, have the FBI analyze what I just said and come up with a profile. I guarantee it's going to say something along the lines of, that dude's fed up with piss poor leadership as it relates to peace and quiet in a society. I bet you it will. So, I'm going to let you go, guys. If you don't like what I said, take it up with Jesus Christ, because he's the one sent me.